What's up, everybody? Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm an hour early. I'm I am pumped about this. Yes, sir. Awesome. Thank you, thank you. So have you guys already watched a bunch of reaction videos and analysis of it? I'm interested to kind of gauge your guys' response to what the more popular people have already put out. I'm just gonna get the game loaded up because I think we're probably gonna be going back and forth a little bit to figure some things out. We'll wait just a couple more minutes. I'm an hour early, like I said, so we'll give people a little bit more time to join in. I am so pumped for this though. Like, ugh, the trailer did not disappoint. It's gonna be hard to wait till June. Do you think that new tree is the Helfin? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't even think we're in that kind of area. I could be wrong, but the way that I understood the tree is it's in the area is it's everything that is kind of uh, outcast in America's kind of ego consciousness, society, golden order, things like that. It definitely could be the Helfin, but to me the Helfin. Oh man, appreciate that. That's very kind. Thank you. Um, to me the Helfin seems more like Valhalla, like a place where warriors go after they like um, have an honorable death in battle. Um, I think those are the roots of the tree. Yeah. Um, and it seems like the shadow realm is much more like a place where once you lose your grace, or you're kind of outcast in the current world order, you're kind of relegated to this area. Um, we'll get to it, but like you guys have seen the trailer by now, but there's tons of Omen and Crucible, stuff going on, and fire, and we'll touch on it. But red hair is not just on Mesmer, but it's also on the bear thing. Like, it just seems like a culmination of everything that is like relegated to the shadows. Like, um, in today's world, it'd be like things that we as society don't want to acknowledge. Things that we like just consciously like, that's not my problem. Like, I choose not to look at that. It's not part of the society, so it's just they're kind of like the other. Um, so I think we've all seen the trailer, so I'm not going to start with that. Yeah, we'll get into it. Um, I have a different take on it, but we'll definitely get into it. That's absolutely a possibility. We won't know until we probably defeat him and get his remembrance, or whatever it's going to be in the shadow. But I have a slightly different take on it. Um, so I think the first thing we should do is just go over the the interview with Miyazaki, because that puts like brackets around speculation, I guess. Because before his interview came out, I think the speculation of where this place was at. Is it a whole new place? Is it something that we visited before? Um, and then also the description of the video, the trailer itself. It talks about Marika went in there first, and then Mikola followed her. So we'll go over those two things, and then we'll just dissect the shit um, out of this trailer. Just want to say your content is on par above the popular lore channels. Blow up one day. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I appreciate that, Douglas. That's very kind of you. I it's this the human psychology aspect is creeping more and more into it, and even before this trailer dropped, on this channel we were talking like, well, it's just going to be like this mirror realm. Like, I said it'll be like Vecna and Stranger Things, where it's like, and it's very, very, very much that. Miyazaki says like it's not a different place, or it is a different place. Like, it's a different realm, a different dimension. And we talked about how we're just going to see kind of chaotic, very beastly like enemies, and it's going to be the antithesis of what the Erdtree and the lands between is. So um, yeah, yeah, it's that. I honestly think that's just a style that Miyazaki likes, because if you go back to Bloodborne, they're like very lanky, where the arms seem extra long, and like it's it seems to just be kind of his style of certain enemies, especially lately, since Bloodborne for sure. Um, so it's hard to, because there's also statues, above all of like the hero caves. Like, there's statues with the person has super lanky arms. Mikola in his cocoon seems to have super long arms. So, and that's another thing that I think we should talk about before we get into like this analysis is, there's things in this trailer that are definitely like lore driven, and are propelling the narrative forward. And then there's also a healthy mixture of just new combat, new weapons, new armor, new areas that are just, I think, spotlighted, that have nothing to do with the story. So um, it's tricky, because you want to take a deep dive into everything, but you don't want to start that slippery slope of like, oh my god, is this person an actual NPC that's going to have significance to us. Well, maybe, but it's just as likely that they're just showcasing a new set of armor or a new battle technique or something like that. So, but again, we'll get into it. So, came to mind was that this place is directly below the lands between, and the death roots are wrapped around. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. To me, it's to me, it's like the Erdtree is still kind of like in there. Like you can see the golden slivers, but it's like being suffocated by Deathroot, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, got my coffee. I don't know what time it is with you guys, but grab a drink, grab a snack. Let's take our time. Ask as many questions as you want. Nothing's off limits. I'll do my best to keep up with the comments and stuff like that. And if you wouldn't mind giving this a like, share it, get more people in here. As far as I've seen, our analysis so far and our predictions so far seem to be the most accurate. But who knows? Who knows? Half horse looks like he designed this. Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start with the interview. Pretty awesome that Miyazaki did this. I feel like Miyazaki of old would have never done this. I know one of his goals for Elden Ring was to make the lore more accessible. And I think this is part of him trying to do that. Because if he did not come on here and do this, Jesus, the theories would be crazy. Even just the location of where this place is at would be unending and never answered. So love that he did this. So can you set the stage for us with Shadow of the Erdtree, where it's taking place, and can you speak kind of generally regarding what the story is going to be about? Miyazaki says, first of all, the setting of the Shadow of the Erdtree is a brand new land. It's a brand new map separate from the lands between. It is a land that is overshadowed by the particular shadow of the Erdtree as opposed to the Erdtree in the lands between. And it takes place again on an entirely separate, physically separate map. So it will involve a warp of sorts to get there. In terms of setting and themes, it technically occupies the same place as the lands between, the same universe. But due to something story-related that we won't reveal today, this has become physically disconnected, and you will travel to the Shadow of the Erdtree land as a separate place. Let me pull something up here, actually, that would be helpful. Okay. Let's just do this one. What the hell? Come on. How about that? All right, you all can see that. So we've talked about this, and let me just make sure that this is perfect. So we've talked about this image before, the ego self access, and as far as psychology, or psychologically speaking, the first figure that we see is where we start as kind of like this newborn, childlike toddler state, where everything is integrated. We're all kind of, there's no divisions, no fractures, no societal pressures trying to be this, repressing that. We all start in this very like homeostasis, whole unified place, where the ego and the self are combined and working in harmony. And then as we grow, that division, that fracture becomes more and more, and they become almost mirror realms of each other, where the ego and the shadow are the antithesis, and what's and I think that the lands between is what is literally between these two areas. So like the lands between would sit in this kind of strange realm of the ego, that would sit above us, like in the capital and the Erdtree, kind of hovering above us, everything golden, right? And then what's below it is like the unconscious, repressed, forgotten aspects of ourself. And I believe that this is kind of we're going down into that area. Um, I think that's a really good description and kind of idea of where the lands between is, and then where we are going to in the shadow of the Erdtree. So this, excuse me. So this land of the shadow itself is a place the player will visit to walk in the steps of Mikola. Mikola is a key part of the story this time, perhaps as guessed by many players who saw that the art that was released previously, that is in fact Mikola. A lot of speculation, but most people, kind of figured it was Mikola because of the hair and stuff like that. So Mikola, it seems, is no longer in his infant form, right? And we'll talk more about it, but Mikola has just he stripped away his flesh, his lineage, his titles, all that kind of stuff to visit this place. So it's more of like a projection of Mikola, or just the spirit of Mikola, rather than like of his physical body in this place. And is he who traveled to the land of the shadows, and it's the players who will be tracing his path and following in his footsteps. I think it's important to remember that, because in the trailer we see what looks like is more than likely Mikola's rune, and I think those are like just like Gale and the final DLC of Dark Souls 3, like kind of had like his staff and like his red scarf. It's like, follow me to this place, and I think that's the same thing that is being done here. I'm assuming that we're gonna see a lot of Mikola's runes, as far as like we are following those to get to wherever he's leading us to. Another axis of the story is Queen Marika and what she did in the land of shadow, and what led Mikola to follow her there. So I think like what Ronnie did, except not intentionally, maybe due to what Moog did to him. I'm not sure what that means. So this is a big sentence right here. Another axis of the story is Queen Marika and what she did in the land of shadow, and what led Mikola to follow her there. So, and in this channel's theory, Mikola is like this healer, right? He is, and we talked about it in the Elden Lord video, he's kind of like this final version of the Animus, who is this spiritual guide all about love and healing. And my guess is that what Marika did in this land of shadow is that she started to split from herself. She relegated the Glomide Queen to this area, like, and I believe that Mikola is coming here to kind of heal that connection, to make Marika whole again. And we'll get into it, but that is my guess, because we know that the Shadowbound Beast, Malekith, his only job was to seal away destined death, which is the Glomide Queen. So my guess is that Mikola is following in those footsteps, reaching the Glomide Queen to finally heal that that aspect of Marika. Ronnie separated from her flesh. Yeah, with the Knight of Black Knives, as far as I know, but maybe putting himself into his cocoon to feed his Erdtree was the same action. Yep. Yeah, it's unknown, and may never be known if Mikola's whole plan was to somehow like release himself from his flesh and his lineage and all this stuff to get to the shadow. Because in the base game, it doesn't really seem like that. It seems like he very much wanted to establish his own um, kind of place of sanctuary for everybody. And I don't know, like you're saying, I don't know if Moog stepping in and taking him, um, he kind of saw his true purpose and said, like, okay, I got to go and do this first before we can really heal and get a place of worship and sanctuary. And honestly, we may never know. Um, that could be one of those things that Miyazaki, like, because it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I think one of the things that Miyazaki likes to do is he gives you the end point, but he lets you figure out the motivation based off of your own interpretation. So we may never get a definite answer on that. Okay, so right there we got a pretty good idea. It's the mirror dimension of the Erdtree and the lands between. It's in a totally separate realm, and Mikola is going to be a huge part of what we're doing. And it seems that he is following in the footsteps of America to do something. And I can only guess that that something is to heal the broken, fractured aspect of herself, because that is kind of the main theme of the base game. And this whole time, Mikola is set up to be this healer, unalloyed gold, everything about the outer gods, all this type of stuff. So, speaking of this new land that we traveling to, how is it structured? Is it structured in very much the same way as the lands between, where there are legacy dungeons, minor dungeons? Can you describe a little bit how the world is going to be compared to the base game? Miyazaki says yes. We think players can expect a similar experience to what they had in the base game. This is going to be structured in a similar way, as you said, with open field maps, with large scale legacy dungeons, and with small to medium scale legacies as well. So we hope players will enjoy the same sense of scale and sense of adventure throughout the structure. That's awesome. Can you approximate the size compared to the base game? It's hard to answer without giving too much away and to a high degree of accuracy, but if you think in terms of scale or size, it's probably comparable, if not larger, than the area of Limgrave from the base game. Let's just do this guy. Okay, maybe not this one. That's too much. I thought there was like a high res. Here we go. Holy moly. So, okay, that's way too big. So basically everything kind of in this range here. It's a pretty good size. Basically from Stormville to like Weeping Peninsula and Caelid. I like that. So you mentioned Mikola earlier. Yo, yo, yo. What's up? What's up? What's up? So you mentioned Mikola earlier, and that's a character that I know fans have a lot of questions about. Is there anything specifically you can tell us about the role this character will play in the DLC? And I know the trailer opens with a shot of Moog's boss arena with the hand hanging out of the cocoon, where we learn more about what Moog did to him. Yes, the cocoon and the arm you saw at the beginning of the trailer. This is actually the point of entry for the Land of Shadow, where the players will enter to the DLC area. We all kind of speculated that, like, literally the first time we saw it. And this does have some relation to Mikola. And Mikola has, as we said, traveled to the Land of Shadow. he does have some motive and some objective there, which we don't want to give away too much. But essentially, the player will be following in those footsteps in the same way that they followed the blessings of grace. So okay, so there we kind of go, the sites of grace and the lands between. So I think that those Miquella's runes could very well act as kind of like our sites of grace, kind of our beacons of where we need to go within this new land. They'll be following Miquella's footsteps, and these will guide him through the land of shadow and reveal that motivation to them. And of course, the player is not the only one who is curious about Miquella. There are several characters in the world and NPCs who have been following Miquella as well. And the player will encounter them on their journey in the land of shadow, and they will make new friends and enemies, we hope. Yeah, I guarantee that will happen. I like that a lot. I love that there are other people who are kind of like on to Miquella and are curious about what he's doing. I'm sure we'll find people that are going to try and help him. People are going to try and stop him. Oh man, I can't wait. Can't wait. There were a lot of striking bosses and enemies that were revealed in this trailer, and I was wondering if we could just go through a handful of them one by one, and you can either explain them, who or what they are, tell us an anecdote about their design or anything you want. And I'm going to do my best to describe them because I don't know the names. First off, there's like this giant basket of flaming kindling. Miyazaki says, okay, so the giant basket of flame, as you so eloquently put it, Mitchell, was a terrible weapon you used in a war that occurred in a land of shadow. So again, without saying too much, we can't give away the name just yet officially, but it was a really gruesome weapon that was used. And the kindling that you see there is actually remains of bodies that were put in there to burn. So there's that friendly fellow. Yeah, that's like the giant like iron basket thing that's burning. And then there's the absolutely terrifying worm with arms that eats people. It's hard to talk about these. There's a significant connection between these enemies, the way they are, and the land of shadow. We'll get into this once we actually dissect the trailer too. But in that cutscene, they specifically put the Ronnie's moon with her great rune on it during that like snake eating our head thing. So it could just be they could have used it as lighting source or some sort of artistic direction. But it's interesting to see the moon there and the connection that it could have with Ronnie. But again, that's just a speculation that's Ronnie's rune. It could literally be anybody's. It actually, that rune kind of reminds me of what you see when the guy's like trying to rip out his head, and it's like going through, it's like his spine and then rib cage. Like it kind of looks like that. Okay, so I'm just going to skip the last one if that's okay. But what can you tell me about the man in red, snakes and flames? It's kind of the focal point of the DLC trailer. Yes, we can speak to this character a little bit. This is, as you say, a key figure in the DLC. We believe he will be officially revealed to be Mesmer by the time the trailer goes live. And yes, he's a key figure in the DLC. And he, again, has the important element of shadow to him, which is a key theme throughout the DLC. That's super important. So he has an important element of shadow to him. In this channel, we talk about shadow as far as human psychology goes, and shadow is like this vessel, this area where you relegate everything that you don't want to acknowledge about yourself, your bad traits, your bad qualities, things you don't want to the world to see, things you don't want even yourself to see. And when talking about Mesmer, I know there's a ton of speculation of like, is he a son of Radagon America because he has red hair, he has snake eyes, and he's got dragon wings and all this different type of stuff. To me, he is the culmination of like everything that is repressed in this Shadowland. Um, he has the red hair of the giants. He has snake eyes. He has snakes around his body. He has elements of the crucible. He has dragon stuff. All of these things were like enemies of America, things that she despised, things that she outcast in her realm. And he seems to be kind of like the pinnacle of all of this stuff come together. I definitely think there's more to him. I think that there's a lot of backstory, and I do think that he has the son of somebody. But I think his creation and his artistic depiction of him is all of these elements combined into one like ultimate boss. And you may have seen the end of the trailer. There's a piece of key art where it shows Mesmir sat on the throne like chair, and people who've played the game may recognize the throne to be one of those from the boss room where you battle Morgott. And this represents the thrones at the base of the Erdtree. It is supposed to symbolize that Mesmir stands on equal footing to those of the other demigods and children of America who sat around in those thrones and held the rooms of the Erdtree. That's awesome. Whether Mesmir is a child of America and Radagon, if he's a different child, he seems to come from that level of kind of like god demigod status. He's on equal footing as the level of power and authority and influence that he holds, especially within his own domain. So he's an important figure who rivals these other demigods, and as you play the DLC, you will learn about why he wasn't featured in the legends of the Erdtree and Lands Between. You realize why he exists in this land of shadow. Oh man, I got a wild idea about that, but we'll get into that once we get into the trailer. Let me check and make sure. I think Weeping Peninsula is considered Limgrave. Okay, so might include both land masses. I kind of agree with that. I think so too. Yes, I think he is the literal embodiment of sin. Yeah, but like sin as in like America's sin. Like I think that's especially with, I know George R.R. Martin wasn't involved in the DLC, but Miyazaki and George R.R., they paint in shades of gray. Nothing is like, oh, he's evil, he's good. There's elements of good and evil in everybody. And oftentimes, like the more sinister somebody looks, they like to play around with elements of like compassion and sympathy, and they play on your own prejudices. So sin, I think, although it's an apt term, I think it's important to realize like sin doesn't necessarily mean like morally bad. It just means like something that is not enjoyed or admired by America herself or the lands between. Mesmir the Impaler, Red Black Flame, possibly who put the spear in America's womb while she's hanging. I think Mesmir is Miquella's shadow self, the darker version of everything he stands for. That's cool. I like both of those, actually. Yeah. I think it's important to realize... well, here, let's just... let's pull this up, zoom it out. So, we've talked about this on the channel before a lot, but this map is 100% a fetus in a womb. At this point, I don't know how you couldn't see it. Like the head, the nose, the mouth. Here's the umbilical cord with Ronnie. There's so many elements of child loss, of like infertility. The themes of that permeate the lands between in the base game like crazy. And I think that's definitely going to carry over into the DLC. One of my predictions for the DLC is that America is going there to face kind of her demons, and I think the whole reason that all this shit started in the first place was because of like a death of her real life child in her womb, stillbirth or miscarriage or whatever you want to call it, because she's stabbed in the womb with like that red death spear thing. The Iron Virgins, they have snakes in their wombs. Here, Renala is right in this kind of the belly of the infant, and she apparently has lost a child and can't have babies or something along those lines. The Lake of Rot sits right here in the belly of this infant. The Weeping Peninsula has a moan grave. The Harpies sing about not being able to give birth anymore. Like, all of these elements seem to be talking about one thing, and it is, if it's not the death of a child, it is just the fact that they can't give birth. Which, if you're familiar with Miyazaki's previous titles, that's a big kind of theme of his, is like this this aspect of fertility and being able to give birth and kind of spread your seed, if you will, and what happens to a person when they can't do that. Like Queen Yarnum in Bloodborne, that story was all about her and the fact that she had what seems to be a stillbirth, the Yarnum Stone, all this different type of stuff. The Orphan of Kos, like, so this theme of death, child death, infertility, blah 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 blah, is super significant, and it's possible that Mesmir, right, is this child that was stillborn, right, and like the projection of that, right, like if you take all of those different elements that we just talked about, as far as the Iron Virgins, the spear in the womb, the Lake of Rot, like all of these different elements seem to compile within kind of his character, and I don't think that is a coincidence. Like it's very possible that he was the child that didn't make it to birth and never saw the lands between and never entered into America's consciousness, all this different type of stuff, and was thus born in like this shadowy realm of repression that America just didn't want to acknowledge, and she couldn't take it anymore, and that kind of snapped, and she fractured the Elden Ring, her psyche, and is now reeling, and really dealing with the pain and loss of that child. But again, we'll get, maybe the land shadow map will look like something else too. I sure hope so. Yeah. Statue of America holding a child in the boss room of Mesmir. Is there really? Holy crap. Remind me of that once we get in there. That's super cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think Mesmir is gonna resolve and kind of paint a full picture as far as exactly why America did what she did. And I think it's gonna catch people way off guard that are like kind of stuck in this whole Ronnie did this just to get away from the two fingers thing. I think it goes much, much deeper than that. All right, let's get back to the interview. Switching gears for a second, one of the big news points, I think the Elden Ring was written by George R. R. Martin. Do you have any kind of role in the DLC? And if so, just out of curiosity, have you talked to him since the game? I'm not going to really read this because it doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing, but it's basically that, no, they haven't been in contact, and he wrote, what he wrote inspired them kind of for the DLC. But it sounds like once the base game was done, they kind of went separate ways. They didn't really stay in contact with each other. It's been 2 years since Elden Ring was launched, and how much of the hardcore audience have already found the best gear? they fought the hardest bosses, and they're at such high levels that I imagine it's going to be difficult to come up with content you can provide a challenge for those hardcore fans without making it too hard for the more casual Elden Ring players. So with that said, how do you approach difficulty within the DLC? I don't really care about this. Different strategies. The same philosophy is taken with the Shadow of the Erdtree, Melina. Yeah, you might remember they're not crucial to completion in the DLC, but they're optional extra to get challenge. Okay, so basically saying you don't have to fight everybody in the DLC, but there's going to be some ass whoopings in the DLC if you want them. It's not that it's only a lesser level to Melania, but we have prepared bosses on that with a similar mindset within the DLC. One that will challenge a player and hopefully be as memorable as Melania was. Okay. Final question. Do you envision this as the end of Elden Ring story? Is there some room for more? We don't want to say that this is the end of Elden Ring saga for now. That's super important. I think we said a similar thing at the end of Dark Souls 3. We didn't want to flatten those possibilities or put a pin in them just at that time. And it's a similar story with Elden Ring. We don't want to discourage the possibility for that. There might be more ideas in the future. We don't have any current plans to make a second DLC or a sequel, but we definitely don't want to snuff that out as a possibility. And lastly, the state of the game, industry, landscape, I don't care. So that's big, right? Because to me, what he's saying is like his plans for Elden Ring, his vision for it, is going to be completed in this DLC. But that doesn't mean that the FromSoft or the company that holds the rights to it won't pressure them because of the success to make a sequel or to throw in another DLC, just pure money, right? Just to get more money out of it, like squeeze as much juice as possible out of it. That's definitely possible. But I think it's safe to say that by the end of this DLC, the story that Miyazaki wants to be told will be ended. Now, is that going to be that we're going to get an answer to everything? Hell no. No, that's not his style. We're still going to have to connect dots, and we're still going to have to just guess as far as what it means to us individually. But I don't think that there's going to be like, oh, this will be answered in Elden Ring 2 or the next DLC. Like, I think that this is going to be it. And if they come up with something else, it's going to be a new story. I mean, it'll definitely, tip of the hat to this story, but I think it'll be something new. Maybe like Ronnie's New World or something like that that wasn't part of the original plan. You can see it in one of the high-def screenshots. Okay, awesome. The name Mesmer on Google states, knife maker, cure of madness, sudden pass out of excitement, baby carriage. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Sounds like mesmerized too, yep. Which means to capture someone's complete attention or hypnotize them, which is basically the same as Mikola bewitching branches. Yep, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Hey, what's up, Andre? I had to ask something. Does that big fire thing in the trailer has something in common with the Celtic Wicker Man? I don't even know what that is, dude. I know that there's a lot of Celtic Wicker Man. Oh man, 100%. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yep. Wicker Man was purportedly a large wicker statue in which the Druids sacrificed humans and animals by burning. Main practice during Caesar's time. Human sacrifice among Celtic peoples, the ancient Greco-Roman sources. Eager to transmit any bizarre or negative information about... Jesus. I know people think like today's times is really fucked up, but dude, what they did back then, like crucifying, hanging people out in front of stuff, this shit, the old torture tools, it's like Saw stuff. Yeah, that is like a 1-to-1 ratio of inspiration for sure. Yeah. Now, does it have anything to do with like? Um, okay, I will. I will. I'll visit the Impaler Catacomb in game, but let me get to. It's gonna be Melania tier for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think that the Wicker Man here has. I would say it's more just artistic inspiration than anything else. Like Miyazaki and George R. R. Martin are crazy about kind of their history, especially Irish history. So Celtic stuff is found everywhere in their games and mythos. So um, I would be skeptical to say like obviously, but it only has like one purpose. That's like killing people and burning their bodies. So um, good catch on that though. I've never even heard of that. Hey, Senator, love your channel. Thanks, man. I enjoy watching you while I smoke a bowl and play. Yeah, yeah, man. I feel you there. Um, we can go deep. We can go deep, brother. Thanks for hopping on. Um, think he's mandatory. Yeah, I definitely think Mesmer is gonna be mandatory. Yep. I think he'll be kind of the same level of. I think he'll be kind of like in between, like the difficulty between Radagon and like Melania. I think he's going to be harder than any of the mandatory bosses, but he won't be as hard as the optional bosses as Melania. Is a sharp double S sound in Deutsch, which is where the word originates, I think. All right. Now I'm afraid of the fact that thing can grab you and burn you. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. That is 100% going to happen. Don't let that thing grab you. Some people have found similarities between Mesmer and who? Yeah. Yep. Now remember, we're in the mirror realm, right? So like architecture, like the topography and the architecture and stuff is going to look very similar. It'll be kind of skewed and distorted, right? But it's I think it's gonna. The whole point is that it's like it's the same but different. It's kind of like the whole thing. Um, Mesmer. Oh, Mesamir. Is that like Mesamir? Okay. Spears and the spears that impale the giants on the mountaintops. Also, similar spears can be found at camps of those that worship the giant's flame. Also, crucible wings. Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. In another interview with Miyazaki, he said the lion-like boss is from the culture that originated in the Shadow Realm. Where's that interview? Hey, thanks for joining. Okay. You guys are gonna have to help me figure out the audio with this. I'm not very good at this yet, so oh boy, that's like
Peggy.
oh boy. All right. So we'll just watch it normal for the first time, just all the way through, and then we'll go back through and kind of um, dissect some things here.
16.
Let me know if you guys can hear that.
pure and radiant. He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
Why isn't this showing anything?
Peggy 16.
Can you guys hear that before I go any further? Peggy! I appreciate that, Chris. Does the audio on the actual trailer sound okay? Oh, sounds good. Thanks, Douglas. Okay. So let's just read this really quick. So in the land of shadow, Mikola awaits the return of his promised lord. The land of shadow, a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot. A land plunged in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Mesamir's flame. It was this land that Mikola departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. So that right there, like there's a ton of information in there. In the land of shadow, Mikola awaits the return of his promised lord. So that sentence, like, I don't even know how to start talking about that. Because Mikola in the base game, it seems like he was supposed to be kind of the lord that was promised, right? Like, but here we know that his role is to heal. He's a healer, right? So his promised lord has to be the whole undivided self, capital S self of America, right? Which we've talked about before as far as being what I believe will be Melina once all these aspects are reintegrated back into the self. If you guys have watched my DLC prediction video, I talk about the path that we walk is literally a path with 4 rings on it in harmony that takes you all the way through the game. And it's there's 4 stages of individuation, where that's the persona and the shadow, the anima and animus, all come together back into harmony with the self. And I can only imagine that this is the promised lord that everybody is waiting for, right? Like, that's the only explanation to that, to Placidusix, to like all this different stuff, is who they're waiting for is like the true goddess Marika and her self form, her inner god. A place obscured by the Erdtree. We kind of talked about that already. It's everything that is literally relegated to the shadows of society, where goddess Marika first set foot. And again, this kind of goes back to the self-ego access. There's a lot more to it than this, but I don't want to get super like heady quite yet. But everything, think of it as like the Big Bang, where everything was kind of in this place of energy and homeostasis and the crucible, more or less, where everything was united, whole, complete, and then fractured from there. So Marika literally came from, Marika as a human being came from, and each one of us come from this place. It's where we first develop as a human being. And let me pull up really quick. We'll just do Malekith, boss room, Elden Ring. Oh, come on, really? Gonna cut off that? Kind of see it here, I guess. So from the beginning, I assumed that, where is it? Sorry, I want a better picture than this. I probably have it in my files somewhere. Um, Stick with me here. Mm-hmm. Okay, whatever. We'll just do it piece by piece. Um, so in like my very first lore video that I made, although it was kind of garbage and I was shitty at editing and there's things I got wrong. Like I predicted that this little girl is Marika as she starts splitting off from her shadow self. We know that the wolf creatures in the number 3 um, seem to be telling the story of the shadow. Like 3 is chaos. The wolves, all the shadowbound beasts are woven or wolf-like, and she is kneeling and praying in a very like orderly, structured faith type of thing. And the Elden Ring above her is the Elden Ring, the structure and the orderly and more structured version of it is coming out of the crucible um, kind of roots, right? Like, so this is telling the same story. The Elden Ring and the little girl kneeling is telling the same story of this is the moment in time. America is, I don't know, 5 years old here, where she has decided for some reason or another to divest herself of the chaotic, shadowy aspects of herself and to go in the order and go in the direction of order and faith and that kind of direction. Um, but she started right as everything was together in one, right? So the orderly Elden Ring was further down below, sitting in harmony with the crucible, basically the roots. Um, and as we grow, right, and as we decide what we want to be and how we want to be perceived and things like that, we separate from ourselves. And I've talked about a lot as far as uh, Melina being the character that represents that self, right? Like she, when we first meet her, is lost and has no idea what she's supposed to be doing. She only knows that she's supposed to get back to the Erdtree for something. Um, and the Erdtree sits high above everything else, and it's completely separated from the rest of the world. So in the base game, we are rejoining these two things, right? Like the law of causality happens to everybody throughout time. We separate our ego from ourselves, and then we kind of rebound off of that, right? And we come back into homeostasis, into unity with ourselves. So at the end of the base game, we are somewhere kind of in this figure 2, figure 3, but we still have America still has to integrate the shadow aspect of her side, right? Like in the base game, we integrate um, uh, the anima and animus, right? Radagon and America back together, and the persona and ego as what I describe as being Godwin, the golden child, is also in this vessel of Melina. But she still has her eye closed, except for the FF ending, which we'll talk about that. Um, but she still has to reintegrate this shadow side of herself, which was a prediction we made kind of in the DLC prediction and kind of throughout the entire journey that we've been on. And that's the only thing I can think about, or that's the only thing that kind of resonates and makes sense to me as far as the place, the things that we're seeing, all this different type of stuff. This is going to take forever. Let me see here. Let me see here. I did, and this is why I think the previous culture must have been all about the Crucible. Yep, I agree. Wow, that your ideas align with what the trailer shows. I appreciate that. Are these the three wolves whose ashes we get from Ronnie? I don't like. I think it's meant to show that. Um, I think what it's meant to show is that you need both order and chaos in your life in order to be a well-rounded, like holistic individual. And right now, that is a thing that is missing from the lands between. So I think anytime we see like the three and wolves and things like that, it's an element of the shadow that is desperately trying to be listened to be loved, to be understood, to be accepted. And even though it tries and tries and tries in the base game, it's not until the point that Ronnie kills the golden child, right? And literally the death roots come from underneath and start to infect the lands between, that it's like, oh shit, like now we really have to do something about this. Um, that's kind of the vibe that I get with those three wolves. I don't think those three wolves are supposed to be like three individual characters. I think that the game gives us enough contextual clues that the number three and that the wolves symbolize the shadow, the chaotic aspect of human nature, and that at that moment in Fair Missoula, America split. So you could almost say that that is the moment that this shadow realm was birthed, right? Like, and Fair Missoula is kind of like the memory of this place, this intermediary space between the ego consciousness and the shadowy realm that like is sitting like this. And Fair Missoula is like the explosion that caused those two things bifurcate. Um, I think that's Mikola and the wolves there. That's definitely possible. I, I'm not sure why that would be the case. You know, from a if you're looking at this as like a case study, this story is about America, um, especially the base game, and to have a statue of that significance be about a player that we don't really know about, and there's not much information on. Now we're getting it now in the DLC. It just doesn't quite make sense to me, especially since the thing sitting right above it is the Elden Ring, which we know America is the vessel for. Um, like to have that character sitting right underneath of them be um, somebody different, it just that just doesn't it just doesn't make any sense to me. Not saying that it's right or wrong. That just it doesn't quite like resonate with me. I think that Messamir is the one who performed that cardinal sin and not Melina. You mean burning the Erdtree? Erdtree was born in the Shadowlands, according to Miyazaki. Base game tells us that Crucible is where all life was blended together. Erdtree took over the Crucible. That is my line of thinking. I think you're right on that. Yep. And again, like if you think about like the Crucible, um, as above, so below, right? So like this Crucible era is everything is in there together, and then the Erdtree grows, and then the shadow of the Erdtree grows too. Um, so the Crucible is literally like you're saying is the crux, is the center of everything. Um, and that the smoldering butterflies point to Messamir as the third child of Radagon America. Um, you mean the smoldering butterflies that we see in the base game? That chaotic Elden Ring looks so much like the Elden Beast Golden Tail. Mm. When Moog appears for the boss battle, he comes out of Mikola's blood. Was Moog hogging the DLC this whole time? Oh my god. Yeah, he's been in there just getting his little fingers, in there. He's been chilling in there. Moog belongs there. Like that seems like his kind of place. Um, seems right. Makes I think he makes sense that the one in the game is an illusion, like alluded to. Maybe time itself is also not constant in the shadow. Yeah. Three fingers represent the chaos flame. Yep, yep. They wouldn't associate the Elden Ring with Mikola. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Renala's brother. Hot damn. All right. Jeez, we haven't even gotten into the freaking trailer yet. Okay, so a land purged in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Mesmir's flame. Um, it was to this land that Mikola departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. So um, the last sentence is really important psychologically because when you think gold, like gold and consciousness are hand in hand. Like in any sort of like major motion picture, any sort of like thing that is digested by a mass audience, the color gold, yellow, the sun, dawn, like all of these things are like the birth of consciousness. And like another way to explain that that's in game is like you see these nobles, like the spirits of them, where they have like mushrooms growing from them, and they're all talking about like how they're trying to get back into the golden light of the Erdtree. And that is because things that are divested of gold, things that are cast away out of America's ego consciousness, get relegated to this place. And they are kind of like, they're in this kind of fissure between these two places where they're telling us a story where we're getting that they are no longer in America's consciousness and they're trying to get back to that. They're in this shadowy realm that now we have an idea of what it looks like. I also think that this is like kind of where the tarnished go, right? Like divesting somebody of grace, which I think talks about in the trailer, they go to this area. And then it seems like once they get to this area, Mesmir kills them. And like what that means, who knows? But being divested of grace and losing kind of the golden hue in your eyes seems that you are kind of immediately transported to this shadowy realm, which we kind of guessed that was the case, right? Like anything that's outside the lands between simply means that it's not within America's like conscious ego. It's anything that she is kind of relegating to the shadows. So this place could be the Badlands, could be the Helfin, it could be any of those things. It could be a culmination of all those things, because they simply people that come from outside the lands between come from like this foggy area, and then they are just in the lands between. So that's kind of how I take this, and then the battle, right, that is kind of plagued this shadowy land, I think is literally the battle between conscious ego and the shadowy unconscious, which again, because we're sitting in like this weird temporal space between the ego and self, the lands between, the base game is full of like things that don't make sense. Like we'll be walking around and we'll see a noble, and then we turn around and there's like this octopus thing that's trying to kill us, and then a dragon flies down. Like we're in this land where the fissures between them are being permeated from both sides, and this battle kind of dominance of the unconscious and conscious is always taking place. Like Grand Sax going after the Erdtree and it like being almost like a statue there as far as like this is happening, right? Like, and then the Misbegottens taking over Castle Morn. All of these things are telling the story of this ongoing battle of the repressed, downtrodden shadow and the uplifted golden child of the ego, and how these things are at odds with one another, and how we are, and Mikola really is meant to heal these two things and have them come back into unity with one another. Okay. Um, the Shadow Realm reminds me of the Black Lodge and Twin Peaks. Messamir is committing a genocide against the Tarnished, who isn't. I appreciate that, Maz. Thank you. What is the significance of the bed canopy over the shadow Erdtree? Is this supposed to represent the state of sleep, unconscious in the Shadow Realm? Yeah, Uncle Fred, that's a great name. I think that it could be a couple different things. I take it to be that, right? Like America's bedchamber. It looks just like America's bedchamber with kind of like the veils coming down, and it seems like everything underneath this veil is the shadow realm. Um, and if that's supposed to be her bed, right? I, it's not a giant leap for me to be like, okay, so she's sleeping in this area, and sleep is the realm of the unconscious, and that is kind of where things from the unconscious raise up to your awareness and tell you a story of things that you are ignoring about yourself. Um, in my Fear the Night video, I talk about how nighttime in the base game is like it's all about death, right? We have funeral steeds, and we have the knights, the black knights, and we have death birds, and all this different type of shit happening. And it's like it's telling us a story of what is happening in this shadowy realm. Like, I think if you guys go back and play the base game, and you play it with this kind of like lens um, of human psychology, I really think it's going to paint a fuller picture for those that do it, because they've been hinting at this for a long time, right? They've been telling us this story for a while, just not the whole story, and I think that is kind of like what the veils are supposed to represent, is like this is the unconscious. And if Mesamir is mesmerized in a state of hypnosis and like sleep and unconscious, like it makes perfect sense that like you can almost picture America laying in her bed going through this, right? Where like she's going through it, like if you think of Mikola as like almost like a therapist type of person, like Mikola is guiding her through this exercise of, we're gonna confront your demons, we're gonna heal this trauma that you've had. That to me, it sits so well with me for like a whole picture of what's being told. Um, Confirm that the veil symbolizes that Shadowland is hidden from the rest of the world. Since it looks like America's bedchamber, I think that's intentional. Yep. Shadowlands being obscured by the shadow of the Erdtree is what those Baldicans represent, according to Miyazaki. Shadowlands being obscured by the shadow of the Erdtree is what those Baldicans, Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I gotta look at Baldican's blessing really quick. Baldachins. Yeah. Favor bestowed by a deathbed companion, protection of hidden temple in the guise of a bedchamber. Yeah. Favor allows one to forget any aches and pains. In death, there is only peace. For in death, there can be no sensation. I think that sits pretty well with kind of what we talked about. The only thing that I would maybe add to that, playing Bloodborne and understanding kind of the story being told there, is that you get all the way through Bloodborne, and then you find the Yharnam Stone, and it says that Queen Yharnam is dead, but her consciousness still rides. Um, So I wonder if that's the same thing happening here. Like, I wonder if America is quote unquote dead, and what we're seeing here is like her in her kind of deathbed, and her consciousness is still kind of like writhing and stewing and not settled. And it could be that once we finish the DLC and we let Mikola do what he was destined to do, that she's finally able to kind of be at peace. That's literally the story of Bloodborne too. Like you you get all the way through the old Hunter DLC, and it's not until you kind of free the Orphan of Kos and you kind of let her consciousness settle, that the curse put on the hunters and the city of Yharnam is lifted. Like that could absolutely be the story being told. And actually, I'm working on a gigantic video right now where it's just a mind dump, and the connections of Queen Yharnam and Bloodborne to Queen Marika and the Lands Between is like, it's like a 1-to-1 ratio of what's being happened, or what's being told. Yharnam stuff. Let's see here. The queen lies dead, but horrific consciousness is only asleep, and it stirs in unsettling motions. And you can see, like, that's definitely an infant. Like, I'm not going to show you a picture of it, but if you look up, like, a miscarriage, it's very, very similar to this. And it's left by Queen Yharnam, and she lies dead, but horrific consciousness is only asleep. Like, it's hard to ignore that with knowing that Miyazaki is, you know, the brainchild of that story and everything going on there, and not connecting it to what we're seeing in Elden Ring. Yeah. Well, I mean, it could literally just mean, so many characters speak of a curse of America, and I don't know what that means. I mean, it could just mean that, right? Like if we look at, if we take, if we accept rather that this is happening within America's psyche, right? And like her consciousness is still stewing and writhing and like tormented by something that she has not resolved. And these characters within her psyche are living this kind of Groundhog Day nightmare over and over and over. That is the curse put on them by America, because just like the curse of the hunters in Bloodborne was put on by Kos, in my humble opinion, that is just another version of Queen Yharnam, just a different way of the story being told. Like it's very similar to what's being told here. Like until we resolve the trauma that is the cause of this horrific consciousness creating this world and this curse and this nightmare, until we resolve that, which I believe is Mikola's entire purpose, until that happens, like this curse is going to be forever and ever and ever. That's how I take the curse. Hey, Noah. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Does anybody else have, before I jump into the trailer, anybody else? Yeah, exactly. A bottomless curse, a bottomless sea. And I don't want to make this a blood stream, or a Bloodborne stream, but like, okay, so the hunter wakes up in the city of Yharnam, and it's like in this kind of nightmare realm, and then there's this further dissociation, of the hunter's dream, and then there's a further dissociation of the hunter's nightmare, and then there's a further dissociation between the fishing hamlet, like the very origin of all the shit that you see in this kind of like nightmare dream world. And I literally think that it's Miyazaki is just taking a different spin on that with America, the lands between, the eternal cities, and then the Shadow Realm, where it's like we're gonna get to the bottom of this story, why she shattered the Elden Ring, what is going on with all of these, infertility and stillborn death, miscarriage, infant death things going on. We're gonna heal that, and then we're gonna kind of be freed from this quote unquote curse. Um, I don't recall seeing anything that overly resembled the Glow-Eyed Queen. Did you see anything in the trailer that will indicate we will confront her? I think um, the lady in the painting could be her because her eyes are covered. That's exactly what I think. We'll get into it, but I will say like the base game, the the cover art and like really everything was about Godfrey, right? Like even in the trailer, it was like it was kind of about America, but it was also more about like her demigod children and the world and things like that. But as you got into playing it, you discovered more and more that okay, so America is kind of the person that this story is about, and you never see her until you get inside the Erdtree. In the DLC, it seems like the cover art and everything is about this Messamir character, and he is kind of like the enforcer of the Shadow Realm, much like the Elden Lord is the enforcer in the Lands Between. My prediction: the Glow-Eyed Queen is in the tree, in the shadow of the Erdtree, just like Marika was in the tree, and the final battle, whatever, where you kind of see at the end of the trailer is like Mikola is kind of healing the tree, and I think that that's what's going to be what happens is Marika, the Glow-Eyed Queen, Mikola are going to come together, and finally be healed. That's my guess. That's my guess. Um, there's a new black flame attack or enemy shown. Yeah, yeah. There's, and I guess before I even get into the trailer, we should also mention that like because this is a mirror realm, it's possible, right, that like the demigod children of America are gonna be present in the shadowy realm, but look completely different. Like they're gonna be distorted, malformed, chaotic structures of themselves, um, just like the Erdtree is, right? It, one of my one of my theories about kind of the like Omen lion boss is that it's Moog Morgott and Godwyn together. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Yes, America has accepted Glow-Eyed Queen and the concept of death for things to heal. Yep, yep. That's the only thing, and like I don't think in a trailer with this much anticipation they're gonna like give away, um, kind of like the big reveal. Like I just don't see them. I don't see them doing that. It's like here's some cool shit. Here's 85% of the story and the things that you'll see, and the real wow factor. You're gonna have to buy it and figure it out for yourself. It might be a similar situation to Bloodborne DLC where they abstain from showing the secrets in the trailers. Exactly. Yep. Yep. I think that's for sure. What does a gentleman like yourself do for work, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah, I produce endurance events. I produce marathons, triathlons, all that kind of stuff around the country. So if you noticed in like I don't really stream or do anything during the summer because that's when my work is super busy. And in the winter, I'm able to kind of like put my nose to the grindstone and figure some shit out. So hopefully I have a better balance this year where I can like stay in touch and do a stream once a week or something like that. But yeah. The old guy in the cutscene removing the Elden Ring spine thingy from his eye could be a cutscene. Giving that as a weapon. Oh, that would be fucking awesome. Yeah, that would be cool. What are the chances we'll see Godwin in this DLC? I think seeing Godwin as you expect him is little. I think seeing Godwin as like an even more malformed version of himself is possible. I think it's possible. Um, oh, awesome! Yeah, I race direct the Iron Man here in Iowa. What a stud! Yeah, yeah. I think it, it's hard for me to not see Godwin here because of how much emphasis is put on him, and like what like Mikola is trying to like resurrect him, right? Like, um, so that has to be an element of this DLC. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if he looks even more malformed, that would be that would be crazy. Um, yeah. All right. I am going to use the restroom super quick, and then yeah, I think Godwin has to make an appearance. Him being the optional boss that just is on like par with Melania would be really cool. Really cool. All right, let's. Whose bright idea was it to put him near the roots? Old guy sticking out of his eyes. And yeah, yep, yep. Um, Recently learned that tree blight is a thing. I've been wondering why it was called death blight, and it's just roots the tree from the inside. Uh, Boreal knowledge is really important in the lore. What is that? Is that like tree stuff? You think the same as I do. There's no way he's not that insane. Optional boss. Yeah, tree knowledge. Okay, cool. Um, if you're interested in Deathblight, um, and um, why there's like eyes on it, um, you should check out. Here, let me see. Um, Fish's eyes. Psychology. Um, what's that called? Hold on, just 1 second. It's in one of these books. Sorry, bear with me here. Should probably just have this with me because there's gonna be a lot of stuff that is it in this one? Or is it in that one? Oh, there it is. Okay. Cooley Piscium. Cooley Piscium. So there's this in this book, the Mysterium Lectures. There's this thing called multiple eyes, Cooley Piscium. It's called fish's eyes. And basically what it says is it's once the ego dies. So ego death is something that we talk about a lot in this channel. Once okay, so in order for the shadow, right, to if you repress your shadow so much that you're completely ignoring it, and no matter how much it knocks on the door, you're not opening it, it has to break down the door, right? That breaking down of the door is something that is called the dark night of the soul, where the shadow kills your ego, and your ego descends into the shadowy unconscious, and from that, what grows from that is these fish eyes, the shadowy unconscious, looking into the conscious world. If you guys are interested in that, it's a really cool. It gives a lot of depth to the death blight and why there's eyes and why they're growing above the surface and like looking around the world. It's worth taking a look into. It's a major transition from the discovery of light shining in the darkness of the unconscious to this discovery of eyes looking at you from that darkness. The presence of eyes indicates that the light residing in the unconscious has a subject, so that those eyes are somebody looking at you, the consciousness. The eyes indicate that the lapis is in the process of evolution and grows from these ubiquitous eyes. Super interesting, but basically what it's saying is that like somebody is looking at you, right? You're no longer looking at them and repressing them. They've taken control and they're kind of looking at you. But anyways, Speaking of trees, the only conifer we find in the base game is Spirit version. The trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree seems to show conifer trees in the Shadowlands. Any ideas? I'm not sure. And Deathblight. Why you get fish parts. Yeah. But the eyes, yeah. Yeah, if you guys are interested, check out that. And water snow seem to be a conduit. Perhaps snow allows us to glimpse some things from the shadow world, like conifers. In the base game, like if walking around the world, this like everything that seems out of place, that should not be in like the waking world, if you will, happens around a body of water, like Deathblight, dragons, the weird, strange creatures. Renala and her boss fight happen in like this watery thing. The Carrion Manor, there seems to be some sort of like gazing body of water, like a reflection pool that they are able to kind of conjure the unconscious, like in the spirit world. Like, yeah, water and this shadowy realm go hand in hand. All right, enough. I gotta get to this. All right, so we're just gonna watch it through together, and we'll go from there. I might have to turn off my mic because you guys might get. You have to let me know if this sounds weird because I have my mic and that playing.
Peggy 16. Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
Why is this? Is this not showing up for you guys? Okay, it is. Sorry. All right. Sorry. I don't know why this is not showing up for you. Sounds good. Sounds good. Shrive. Okay, here we go.
Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. There is nothing more terrifying.
In that forsaken place, blood must spill. Blood of your fellows. The Erdtree faithful.
They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
I presume you, too, are keen to know just what kind Mikula is doing here.
Those stripped of the race of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of restless flame.
Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. I will not be far behind. May we meet again.
God, that's so good. No visuals. Did you guys not see any of that? Oh my god, are you kidding me? The audio mixing makes it okay. Did you guys not see any of that? Oh no, you saw. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, Jesus. All right, let's. What? I don't want this.
Peggy 16.
All right. I can just mute it and go from there. Let me catch up on some. Okay. Even the Elden. Yep. Yep. Yeah, water is a reflection. Exactly. And honestly, it's like, unless it's like perfectly smooth, it's like a distorted reflection, right? Like you throw a rock in there and you look at yourself, it's like a kind of a broken reflection of what you really are. Um, but yes, water, like if you do a deep dive into kind of psychology and alchemical psychology, like water and dragons, the more mystical things, like they all represent the unconscious. Like, which is why also in Bloodborne, like you go like below the sea, like in the Hunter's Nightmare, you can see the tops of the sails of the ships in the fishing hamlet, and like they always talk about water being like this bulwark of deeper knowing and like insight and things like that. It's like very much water and the unconscious are related. Yep. Bloodborne has water heavily associated with, yeah, Portal Sailor World. Yep. Let me see now. Erdtree Golden Dew is being collected at the top of the tower. Do we have anything on mirrors in the game? The audio mixing makes it difficult. Okay. You can use a mirror in Fear's room to change your appearance. Yeah. Saw it. Okay. That lighting thing is creepy. Is it Siraj? All right. Let's dig into this. And I'll just go slow at first. 50%.
In. Pure and radiant.
Okay. So I think the first thing that we should talk about is just this. Yeah. Is this very first. I don't know why you guys aren't seeing that. That's really weird to me. There it is. It takes forever to like pop in. That's so strange to me. Wow. Why is it doing that? Let me just try reloading the page and seeing what happens there.
Peggy 6. Pure and radiant.
All right. That's really weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe leave it on full screen. But then I can't like. Oh, whatever. I don't know if that's working or not because I can't see you guys' comments. So I'm leaving it on full screen for a few seconds. Let me know if I'm gonna take it back. Let me know if that worked. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. When you pause it. Okay. So here we have what appears to be some sort of Melina character, although I think it's been proven that it's not her because the dresses aren't quite the same. But we know that America entered this world, right? And my guess is if this is anybody, it's either going to be somebody that we've never met before that is helping us along this journey, or this is showing America entering this space prior to us entering this space. It could be Saint Trina. Like, I'm not sure. But my guess is that it's America entering this space. Like, the further we get along the game, the more America seems to understand that she has to take like this deep dive, this look into um, into the depths of the Golden Order and like find what is going on. It could be that that means that she is literally going into this space, entering into this shadowy realm to discover kind of the hidden secrets of this space, because we know in the it's either the interview or the description that America entered this space. Mikola is kind of following with her, and then we follow Mikola. It's kind of like this America. It's like this domino effect. It could be some, yeah, it's probably somebody you just knew that we've never met that's going to help us along this journey. Apparently America entered the place long before the events of the story. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because like you don't time is so weird, and like the way that the story is being told, as far as like America is this and that, and she's here and there, and she's, and there's twins, and like the split in body of soul, and like all this different stuff is like it's hard to like pin down exactly like, okay, so this is definitely post Moog fight. This is definitely like, you know what I mean? So the options are limitless, and FromSoft is not like, they could just be showing us this and we don't actually see it in game. Like that is super possible. It could just be a way, like this could just be meant for us. Like this person could just be us, the player character, entering into. It could just be showing us how we get into the DLC. It could be that simple. Yeah. Shadowlands is where she became a god, which was long ago. Yep. And then we look at the text on screen. Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. So shrive means to like absolve somebody of their sins. Like he's cleansing their sins, if you will. Um, and we've talked about in the past, if you've been on some of my other streams before, the role that Mikola is meant to play is like this healer that is from a position of love, because there is a difference. Like in alchemy, there's two types of sulfur, which is a huge component of this game and the story being told. Sulfur, there's crude sulfur, and then there's pure sulfur. Crude sulfur is like desirousness. It's like tyrannical. It's very possessive. It's out of a place of like desire and lust than it is out of like love. And in order to have like the true rebus, the true completion of this individuation process, it has to be approached from this position of love. Because if you don't, the alchemical formula, it won't reach its conclusion. Like it will come back as like a distorted, malformed version of like the Philosopher's Stone or the Elixir of Life or whatever it is, because the elements themselves weren't pure. So that's a really important like sentence right there, is it, because it tells us that, okay, so Mikola is this being, is this healer who heals with pure love, and which is kind of his storyline as far as unalloyed gold, healing his sister, all this different type of stuff, ridding us of outer god influence, all that kind of stuff. Another place where you can change appearance is also at Renala. Renala is associated with eternal cities, which are associated with silver. But America doesn't perceive herself in this reality as fully herself. The whole game is a fracture of her. Makes sense her projected self could enter after, right? Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. I have it's hard because like like Mikola's body is right there, right? But we see him in the DLC. He's like transported. He's stripped of XYZ and is there. So like, it's tough for me to be like, okay, this can't be America because this happened sometime before. Like, it's also, you have to be on the side of the developers, like when you're thinking about this too, and not just as a consumer. The developers need to get a story across to us, whether it makes like logical or linear sense to us. You know what I mean? Like, I think which is why they play around with time so much, is because they're like, well, that was supposed to happen long ago, but they're here. Like, how do we explain that? Like, it's I I'm like 50-50 on whether this is America or not. No idea. That is just a hunch of mine. It's them just showing us this sequence of events, and she went in, Mikola went in, we're going in, and it all happens here. But who knows? I think you need a larval 2 to do it. There's also a silver mirror shield wielded by Loretta and ties to Albanarix. Might be a scene just made for the trailer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's like, you have to take all this stuff with that kind of attitude. Is like, we may never see any of this stuff in game. Like, that's a very low possibility. But this could just be like, it's how many times in a movie trailer like do you never actually see the scene? Like, they're just showing you whatever it takes for you to buy the game. Like, and really, at the end of the day, this is a business and it's a company for profit. So as much as Miyazaki wants to tell us an accurate, complete story, like, he still has somebody to answer to as far as profits being made. So the trailer, take it with a grain of salt. I do think there's a ton of lore implications in here. Not to discredit anything, but like, it's important to think about it that way. Okay.
He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
I think this is literally just showing us how we enter into the DLC. Nothing new here. But that's what I mean. Like, Mikola's body is right in front of us, but we see him in a totally different form, like his like almost like godly form, projected into this shadowy realm. We see Marika's fractured body in the Erdtree, but she could be projected anywhere. So who knows? Okay.
There is nothing more terrifying.
There's nothing more terrifying. Now, the only reason that I can think whoever is narrating us says this is because they dwell within this shadowy realm, and they're worried Mikola is coming to kind of destroy their world, like to take reign of this this realm. That would be the only thing that I can think of, is like why the narrator would say there's nothing more terrifying. Because like, there is zero evidence that Mikola is up to some sort of like mischievous thing. Like, even at the end of the trailer, we see him like golden, like an angel, right? Like, healing the Erdtree. Which means that the realm of the shadow, it's not that it won't exist, right? It's just that it's going to be healed. And to somebody who has only known that, it could be an incredibly terrifying thing to witness. I wonder if I like close some of this shit. Will that help? Hmm. All right. Let me just go full speed. Um, Nothing crazy here. I think it's just an introduction to the Shadow Realm. Um, Obviously, we can see kind of the veils of the bedchamber here, which is just kind of like this. Anything underneath that is the land of the shadow. Um, Here we get like, so when I say like everything that is outside the lands between seems to be like represented within this land of the shadow, because like to me Badlands, like if these aren't the Badlands, like I don't know what a Badland would look like. Obviously we have reeds everywhere, um, like all of the different kind of origin points that are outside the lands between seem to originate from this place, and like the lands between kind of split off with America as she became like this god, and everything else that is not that just stayed here. um, Mikkel has the potential to be a very dangerous opponent because he has the power to influence and control everyone. Yeah, that's that's definitely true. Yep. Two preconditions for starting DLC are defeating Radon and Moog. Not sure what to make of that. Um, Mikola is the most fearsome because you will come to love him. Um, yeah, yeah. If the demigods just seem to use him more than more than anything. Well, I think defeating Radon like sets everything in motion, right? Like it's everything before that seems to be in like this state of stasis. And it's only after that that like you actually begin the deep dive into kind of the hidden unconscious, and it sets in motion basically the rest of the story. And then Moog, like you're gonna have to kill Moog if that's your entry point. He's blocking it. The most fearsome. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he holds the fates. Yep. Yeah. 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 Without killing Radon, you never actually experience like the truth behind a lot of the game. Like you're very much stuck on the surface level. It's driving me crazy that you guys can't see this. Like if I close these tabs, will that help? I have a bunch of them open. Keep that one up. Keep Shrive up. I wonder if that helps at all. Nope. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well. Yeah, I mean, God, what a fucking shot, huh? Um, hopefully it's populating for you guys, but you can see the veils coming right from over the shadow Erdtree, and it's just enveloping this entire realm of the shadow. Um, and there's also, I mean, there's different veils, right? Like we have America's Veil in game, which is known as America's Mischief. Um, like there's peeking behind the veil, like the Wizard of Oz, like finding out who's controlling things. I think a lot of uh, those analogies are at play here. Is like you're getting a peek behind the curtain of like what is driving the things that are happening above the surface in the lands between. Um, uh, One quote from a human psychology standpoint is, if you don't address your shadow, it will dictate your life and it will be known as fate. Um, so basically, like if you never acknowledge the repressed aspects of yourself, right? Um, of the things that you are hiding away, they will seep into your life and it will start to um, kind of perforce this fate like existence of things that happen in your life and you don't know why. Um, and it's because you are ignoring a huge part of yourself, and that part is starting to take control of the wheel and starting to drive you around. Um, Radon is the character who literally does everything he can to make sure that that doesn't happen. But it doesn't matter because things are still happening, right? Like things, Deathblight is happening, the Night of the Black Knives is happening, Ronnie's doing her thing. Like he controls it to a certain point, but it's still like controlling America's life to a certain degree. And then once you kind of release that pressure valve and kill Radon and this resistance to change and acknowledging the other, does the reality, the peek behind the veil, actually start to manifest itself. And I think that is basically what is being the story being told in this one amazing picture is this is the reality, right, of America's conscious. She can try to pretend like it's not happening. She can keep this facade up, this illusory golden wrapped tree. But the reality is right here staring us in the face. This is her true state of her psyche. It's malformed and it's decrepit and it's dark and chaotic. And that only happens because you've had some sort of trauma in your life that is yet to be healed. Let me see here. Fia's head covering, yeah, as well. Yep. View your stream, it shorts out. Yeah, I think when like somebody said, the capture card is just really struggling here. And I mean I just see this on my laptop, so it's not like the best setup in the world. Um, Ones that overhang the beds. Yep. Eclipse Castle Soul certainly seems like this dark tree eclipses the golden thing behind. Yeah, yeah. I mean that's kind of like um in psychological alchemy, um, the eclipse is known as Soul Niger, and it's when the shadow uh, basically takes control of the ego, like and it encapsulates it, right? Which is what we see in the Night of the Black Knives, is the shadow taking matters into its own hand and becoming fate and driving the story. Um, and that's what the eclipse is it's it's the darkening of the sun, and if the sun is the golden child, Godwyn, which Castle Souls seems to be about Godwyn, and I think there's very little debate that Godwyn would represent kind of like this persona ego, this apex of everything that America holds dear. He has to die before the rest of the story can play out, and that's kind of what the eclipse. That's kind of what the eclipse does. It's funny, I actually have the Black Sun here, which is it's just the alchemy and the art of darkness. It's a really really interesting read, but basically it talks about this whole thing. So as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being, which seems to kind of be like what Mikola, like what he is doing. Ego death opens the psyche to transformation, so, and involves the deep art of darkness. So again, like, if you guys are interested in I can literally just give you all of this crap that I read, but that's kind of like what has to happen before any other process can take place. Reminds me of Fia's head covering. Yep, for sure. Blackened tree thing is the shadow of the Erdtree. It parallels what Gideon and Hugh experienced when confronted with America. The sheer terror, yeah. America's not coming to terms with their shadow self, and the world twisting in the worst ways could be America's curse. 100%. I think that is 100% accurate. Yep. Until she confronts that side of herself and accepts it and moves on, nothing will change. Yeah, it is. Steamed Hamlet. It is that one. Okay. Move on. So this is what I was talking about. Miyazaki makes it seem like these runes are going to be kind of our like guiding way, just like as the guidance of grace was it for the lands between. It seems like Mikola's rune, which I'm assuming that this is going to be like our waypoints, and it's going to be, like I said, you know, America enters, Mikola follows her, and we follow him. So like we're just following in the footsteps, and he's leaving these kind of these waypoints for us to come find him, and to do what he is destined to do. And then also it looks like some new armor or something here, which looks pretty sweet. And since this is like a brand new world, I don't think that there's going to be a one-to-one like, oh, this is Caria or Caria, or this is, you know, the snowfields, or this comes from some other castle, Morn, or something like that. Like, I think it's going to resemble certain aspects, but just like the bosses that we fight, where it's like this hodgepodge of chaos and unstructured mess of things, like I can only imagine that that's going to be the same as far as the architecture and kind of topography of this world. Like if the Erdtree is kind of like the beacon and how things are supposed to be in the lands between, and how structured and organized and orderly that is, then if we look at the shadow of the Erdtree and how chaotic and twisted and malformed that is just a red herring of what everything that we are going to experience in this shadow realm is going to be like. Oh, this guy is sweet. Have any of you guys played Demon Souls. I gotta switch back to... That rune is sex-laden? What do you mean? Looks like clean rot spears, shapes, or some weapon. Yeah. Okay, you guys are... let me go back. Okay, so you see conifers here. I see. Yep. Although you guys probably can't see this right now. That's great. So yeah, you definitely see like the death blight is like crumbling off of the tree. And then it looks like there's some sort of sap, yeah, like being funneled into this tower. No idea what that means, though. You can see it again here, up here. So, yeah, the sap or whatever that is, and then the death root is coming off of it. Yeah, and there's tons of conifers here. It's like a very dramatic like shift in reeds and then right into conifers. Trying to, let's see, tower, alchemical symbology. That rune resembles the symbol for sulfuric acid. Just means beautiful, sexy. Oh yeah. Hey, it is super sexy. Vitriol, alchem. Okay, I'll check that out. This? Is that what you're thinking? Let me go back to... I don't know. I'm not really seeing that, but circle with line through it. I suppose there's some resemblance. I don't see it, but my brain is weird, so don't take any offense to it. So this guy, like, could be a major NPC that we end up meeting in game, but his look. Has anybody played Demon Souls? I'm sure several of you guys have. Let's see. King Dorian. I think that's him. Demon Souls. Homie looks just like this guy. Like same kind of weapon, same, a lot of the same stuff going on here. Like the whole armor set is like a kind of a tip of the hat to Demon Souls, and even his sword looks pretty dang similar. I don't think it means anything. I think it's just a maybe a callback from Miyazaki, or he just likes that kind of style. But they also have a cape of like Raven, like the raptor stuff, which is really interesting because it's very strange for this armor set. Like it's very heavy armor, big sword, and then the raptors are all about like fast assassin-like movements. So I always choose that guy. Yeah, they put Havel in there too. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. Latin phrase that translates to visit the interior of Earth, and by rectifying what you find there, you will discover the hidden stone. Oh, whoa. Okay. That's pretty sweet. Sorry, man. I was not picking up what you were laying down. Oh, yeah, that could be. Yeah. I'm sure Bach will come and help us out. He'll take off that cape. And it tracks with integrating the shadow self to complete the individuation. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me now. Hamlet, tons of alchemy in this game. Yep, tons of alchemy. And speaking of alchemy, one thing that I always thought was interesting was that like the rebus is the combination of the sun and the moon. And I think people get hung up on the Red King and the White Queen, and just automatically assuming that it's Marika and Radagon, and that the Rebus child is Mikola. But again, like everything else, like if you take it at surface value, that makes sense, right? Like it could be. But if you dive into it even a little bit, like you're like, well, that doesn't make sense because Marika and Radagon are one being who they both represent the same thing. Like that would be like the sun and the sun coming together. Although they're male female, it would make a lot more sense for like Ronnie and Godwin, like literally the sun and the moon, for those two to come together to actually actually birth like the true Rebus. It just like it never sat well with me. Like it never quite made sense. But everybody just kind of takes it as like, oh yeah, that's what's happening. And it could be, absolutely could be what's happening. But to me, it just never quite like, I don't know, it just never quite made sense. And that could be something that we see happen in game, right? Is the restoration and purification of Godwin's soul, if it is in this shadowy unconscious realm, which it, according to like based off his appearance in the base game, like he seems to be occupying this space. Like healing him and combining his purified soul with something else would make a lot of sense as far as like the true Rebus. Was the eclipse Ronnie merging with Godwin? No, the eclipse is Ronnie taking over Godwin, or the shadow taking over the ego. Um, like the eclipse is usually the first thing to happen. Like you have to have the eclipse before any of the other processes can happen. Is alchemy a Miyazaki thing or George R. R. Martin thing? It's probably both, honestly. I mean, I think alchemy, because it's so fringe and provocative, and like the story being told, like if you think about alchemy, like it's literally a guy, it's an alchemist with a flask who is watching a stone go through different processes, right? Like if it's the philosopher's stone that they're trying to make, or whatever you want to call it, but the imagination that comes from it and the world that they build off of that, as for, like it's dragons and it's the sun and the moon and it's serpents, and I think that has a pull to any sort of like artistic endeavor by somebody, because I think their imaginations kind of work in the same vein. So I think alchemy and like world building is like part of the same process, because you're just like world building, you're just sitting at a computer or at a notepad, right? And it's your imagination that takes you to places. It's a berserk thing. And Young was most certainly influenced by it. Yeah, lots of manga inspired. Yep, yep, yeah, yeah. Because they were like kind of hunted down. Yeah, definitely. Kind of like the same as like the Illuminati. Like they were hunted by the church and kind of had to meet in secret, and like even like Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man was written like backwards, so that way people couldn't read it. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like occult things being done. Okay, so I get from from this guy, I just get like we're gonna get probably a new NPC and a tip of the hat to Demon Souls by Miyazaki, and like just a badass new set of armor and weapon. Um, that's the only thing I'm taking from this picture. I mean, obviously, you kind of have like a Mount Gelmir vibe going, and there's more conifers. Like, um, and actually, now that I look at it, like, if you take off his kind of cape cloak thing, which is very much associated with like the shadow and raptors and assassination and all that kind of stuff, like he's very much clad in what looks like gold, and then his backside is kind of like the shadow. And if you notice in game, there's a lot of that going on. Like the in the round table hold, you'll see a shield bifurcated into four different sections. It's black and white, and it's kind of like opposites. Oscar is wearing like half black, half white. The D twins are wearing half gold, half silver. Like there's so much of a story being told of this split, and I think that this is like if like this section, the right section, is meant to be kind of like the more like known, accepted world that we would make sense of. Like it's just a cliff with some trees, and the front half of this character is like gold and makes sense to us, and then like the back half of this character is like it's like the antithesis of it. Like it doesn't make any sense why he would be wearing that. And then what's behind that is like this very jagged Mount Geomir-esque, like distorted version of the right half. And even like the sky is kind of like one half is lit up, the other half is very much shrouded in darkness. Like I my guess is that's kind of the artistic direction they were going in, is again like this split between light and dark, and ego shadow accepted and repressed. And then I can't make out anything on his. To me, a lot of the kind of crucible imagery seems to like not really have a pattern to it. Like it's very like it's like swirly, like kind of everything's kind of like, you know, like roots of a tree, where it's like it doesn't really have any structure to it. And we see a lot of that in the art of this DLC.
In that forsaken place.
In that forsaken place, blood must spill. See, we kind of get more like his stuff is just like kind of swirly, not like there's no like line on it or like a certain image. The spirals again have a huge in the base game, like a lot of like the more legendary swords are like two spirals coming together or two spirals separating or something of that manner. So spiraling and coming together or coming apart is a big aspect of the entire game and also the DLC. Up here we just see a lot of people. I can't make any of that out.
Blood must.
And then here, no idea if this is a character that we'll meet, if it's just new armor that we'll get, if it's meant to be the player character. But it seems that I think at first it's meant to show, it's meant to evoke somebody that's dead here. But because of all the purple and the St. Trina's lilies and all this different type of stuff, I believe this person is just asleep. So St. Trina and sleep and that kind of magic, I think, is going to play a huge part in this DLC. Okay, let me just see what you guys are. Sword seems crucible-y, yeah. Could say that the darkest places of the DLC will be found in between jagged rocks and deep canyons. Yeah. Probably an enemy type. Look a little bit different than this. Yeah. I was talking about like the ones back there. Let's see. Oh my god. So we got that. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, like the hue might be a little bit different just to evoke, you know, the kind of dominance of the color. Okay. So again, you get like, it's definitely a version of Karya. I mean, there's tons of bird cages. It looks just like when you walk in, I forget what it is, but it's got pews in it, and it's got like this exact thing, and the ladder is over here, and you have two of the dolls that fight you, and the mage is hitting you. Like that seems to be this area. And then the purple, I believe those are glint stones and not flame. So blood must be spilt, the blood of your fellows. In that forsaken place, blood must be spilled.
Blood of your
The
fellows.
blood of your fellows. All right, let's look at this guy a little bit. Oh, man, who the heck is this? I've heard like people think it's Dectus, or like the person in the Dectus like lift. I think mostly just because of his hat. And I'm saying his because that's what it looks like to me, but who the hell knows? I wonder what your guys is. Yeah, Carrie said, Church of the Cuckoo. The person on the stool here seems to be the same person as the one in the inverted. Oh, really? Ronald's bro. Supposing this guy is one half of the Dectus Medallion. Blood of other tarnished. All right, let's look up the inverted statue. Ronnie inverted. Oh. Jeez, could you make that a little bit smaller? Good God. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Is it? I mean, it's possible. Let's go back. I mean, but his like head dress thing is like not even like the top of the headdress is, but the back isn't. Yeah, Church of the Cuckoo. Yep. Ties in with as above, so below. Yeah, for sure. Caria was matriarchal, so the princes were cast to the shadows. Ooh, I like that. Deventures Salvator Mundi. Yeah, there's no ruffles. I would think like if they were gonna make it that connection, which perhaps when you meet him in game, his dialogue just explains everything. But what was it? Salvator Mundi. Salvator Mundi. Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh. Okay. What is the do you have like a synopsis of what it was supposed to mean? Like what is Salvator Mundi supposed to mean? That's really cool. Savior of the World is a painting attributed in whole. Copy of the lost original. Rediscovered, restored, and included. depicts Jesus Christ in an sign of the cross with his right hand, non-refracting. Huh. The celestial sphere of the heavens. Interesting. Huh. That's really cool. Savior of the world. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. America and Christ are definitely there. But the fact that you use this, right? Like this is Ronnie's tower. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. That's really cool. I've never noticed that before. Hmm. I mean, if Ronnie like put this whole thing in motion, right, and like by the end of it, we get rid of this curse. I mean, she would be like the savior of this world. Alpha and Omega, start of everything, the end of everything. Yeah. Huh. That's really cool. I'm gonna have to. Yeah. Probably. I think that you're probably right. That ties in more to her ending. But like, I wonder if like her ending will change because of the DLC. Can't, right? Because since there's a DLC, like her ending doesn't really like all the endings don't really mean anything. They don't really do anything. Like hers is the most kind of I don't know, redeemable because it seems to like uh be about acceptance and like it's time for the repressed aspects to have their time. Um yeah, everything's coded. Yeah. There are no changes to the main game. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. That's really weird that there's not going to be a new ending or a different ending to one of the. Huh. That's wild to me. I wonder if that's true. Okay. Back to this guy. And then I think if you guys have watched any other streams about this, it just seems to be a swamp of like death blight. Um, looks very shaded castle esque, but I think this is just one of those times where it's just like here's going to be a new area. I don't know that it has any like story or lore implications to it. Okay, so then we get to these two people. Um, so I think there's a couple things that could be at play here. Um, this could be a deathbed companion, right? Who is just kind of by the side of this old man during his last moments. That seems to be kind of like Fia's whole story, right? Like, but this person, this female has black hair, and the only reason that a woman would be touching her belly like that is because they are pregnant. That's a very unnatural pose unless you're pregnant. Then it's like kind of what every pregnant lady does during a picture. And I wonder if these two are a couple and they have a child together. If this is like daughter and father, and it's just kind of like a family portrait. I'm not 100% sure, but my guess is that this person is the Glomite Queen, and that she is pregnant with Mesmer, and that this is either the father or I don't know, the grandfather or somebody along those lines. But the only person that we ever meet that has black hair like that is during the Frenzy Flame ending, and it's when Melina takes on the role of the Glomite Queen. And we know that Mesmer, during kind of his intro, says mother, blah, 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 blah. So he has a mother. Like, he was born of something or of someone. And if this is the split between, right, like if the Shadow Realm is the Glomite Queen's domain, and we never hear of Mesmer above the surface, is because this split would have happened during pregnancy, or like if we take on the thought process of like miscarriage, then it's possible that this was the like last picture of America while she was pregnant, and then had a miscarriage, and that is what kind of sent her whole world into this downward spiral. And the kind of main character of this Shadow Realm would be the child, right? Like, the central figure, the reason of this whole Shadow Realm would be this child. Like, it's the same as I use this a few times, but Vecna and like the Upside Down. Like, Vecna is like the central figure of that world, and changes and distorts and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of the only thing that I can gather from this picture. And with the story being told in this, very short picture, and if you notice, like, the bracelets she's wearing, I think resemble the same bracelets as Mesmer. This old guy is the old guy who eventually looks like he's going to rip off his head. Like, that story being told is like some sort of tragedy happens apparently with this child. That's the only thing that I can think of. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Dark Souls 3 DLC in the area. She looks evil and old fellow looks scared. America's parents, Radagon, haven't them since he is probably the unborn demigod. Actually, America is Radagon because Radagon is son of himself in America, since he is unborn and he is only America. Dude, I I couldn't follow that at all. Her head covering looks like fabric from the Banished Knights in Fair Missoula, so that works. With the tassels, yeah. Like that's the only reason that they're showing us this picture is because it has like okay, so it's also the narrator, the Erdtree faithful in this picture are tied together, right? Like this single scene is telling an entire story. Like if we take America, right, during her pregnancy is still faithful to the Erdtree, is doing everything that she thinks she's supposed to do, you know, has sealed away destined death and blah 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 blah, still very much faithful to the Erdtree. And then she loses this child, right? And is no longer faithful to the Erdtree and no longer has blind faith in the things around her and the values she once held, and then enters this shadowy the shadowy realm of trauma and all this different type of stuff. Like again, the map being a fetus, the womb being stabbed, the womb being where the Lake of Rot is, the Iron Virgins, the Weeping Peninsula, the Harpies. This picture, that's the only thing that fits like in the narrative. I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, that's, you know, she's gonna give birth to Radagon or something along those lines. Like that's, I think it's much deeper than that. And like, it could be that this is Marika's like true appearance, right? Like she does have black hair and like this is kind of how she looks. But once she separates herself, like just like everything else, everything that goes to the surface is golden. And it would make sense that her appearance in that lands between above the surface would be like a golden aspect of herself. And the thing below, her true self, would be this dark-haired maiden who was just a lady pregnant and had this terrible thing happen. Again, it's a very similar story to Bloodborne, and that came from the same mind. So it's hard for me to not draw those parallels. And I don't think that I don't get the old guy looks scared. I think he just looks freaking tired and old. I don't know. It could be that she is like Fia, kind of like takes another person's warmth and then like gives life a second chance. That could be what's happening here. Like it could be kind of his final moments, and she takes his life essence to give birth to something else. But I find it hard for this portrait, the fact that it says the Erdtree faithful, like all the other elements at play, the fact that Messamir says mother, like it's there's a lot. There's a lot here. I think this is just kind of an area. You know, obviously there's the pots that are presumably filled with blood that nourish the shadow of the Erdtree. They could be going up and down, getting blood, like taking it from a pool of blood. Like it's possible that if Messamir is at the top of this place, like every time he kills somebody, he just throws them in, and like the blood is down there, and it's kind of this well that is used to grow the shadow. It could be that they get blood from elsewhere and they bring it here. Either way, I don't think it has like a ton of like narrative value, but I could definitely be wrong. Same thing here. I think this is just the level that we're gonna be. It's cool. I don't think there's more to it. This place is really like, it's another one of those like, you have light shining on part of the castle, and then the dark part is being like literally like, it's like dissolving away. And this is the moment in the narration where it's basically what it's saying is like, hey, these people here, they weren't perfect, right? They weren't saints, but they were just happened to be on the wrong side of a war. Like, what I'm getting from that story is like, there wasn't a right or wrong, but there were winners and losers, and no side did anything that actually like prompted the war. The people just that inhabit here now are the losers of that war, or the losers of the battle between ego consciousness and the shadowy unconscious. And like the castle and the way that it's being depicted is also telling that story of like, the where the light is shining is like a beautiful castle that's well put together and like doesn't have any issues going on, and then just a little bit above it where there is no light, it's decrepit and it's dark and it's falling apart and it's malformed, and like everything that you would expect from the shadow realm, right? Like in psychological shadow of like neglect and kind of this this overall theme of repression, and what that does to also a person and to like even a building, right? Like if you don't take care of it and you don't acknowledge it, it just kind of, this is what happens to it. But again, we see spirals here. Conifers again are kind of in the forefront, and then what's in the background is like just this very dark, twisted version of the castle. And again, we see a bunch of people up here, and then the Erdtree, or shadow of the Erdtree. And then what's really interesting is like they take the time to put in these green trees. Like there's life growing here still. It's not just all, decay and decrepit. Like there is an element of growth and of life still here.
The saints. They just happen to be on the losing side.
They just happen to be on the losing side of a war. Yeah. So again, like this is kind of a play on like, your prejudices, where you look at this creature and you're like, oh Jesus, that thing has to be like destroyed and like be locked away, but they're just, this is just who they are. And then we get, a snake person. Actually, I think Quelaag might have shown that this is actually like a worm, like it has like a sucker face to it. And if it's like sucking on the head, like it could be kind of Bloodborne style, like it could be taking out like elements of like your psyche, of your consciousness, and that's kind of like what it feeds on. And then in the back here we have the moon and what apparently would be Ronnie's rune, but it could also just be like the symbol of the unconscious, like the rune of the unconscious almost. But they're showing us that again, just like the painting, like they're showing us this for a reason. We are very much in like the moon's realm, the dark unconscious realm. Okay, so this, maybe I should, let me just catch, follow the thorn, the blood, and Mesmere. faithful are the ones who want to spill their blood. Possible. What if this is the Elden Lord of the Shadow Realm? Unlikely, just putting out there. Also possible. I put that title more on Mesmir. Like he seems to be like the enforcer of the world, and that's kind of like what the Elden Lords do in the lands between. Your mic seems to. Okay, I think I just put it too far away from my face. That makes sense because she's a Newman, and in character, Newmans don't have golden hair. He looks down. Still just seems like Glowmite Queen and Daddy to me. Yeah, that would be my guess. Tears of Blood was son of Dragon and Dracula. Castlevania S2. Yep. Yeah, there's a green, very lush area. What is Shadow in Shadow Realm? Another thing in another realm? And so on, like a spiral shadow that create a shadow that creates shadow, etc., etc. What is Shadow in the Shadow Realm? I think that's getting too granular. I get that Shadow in the Shadow Realm doesn't really quite make sense. Like there's what's the ego in the ego realm? You know, Chaos Flame can burn the Shadow Tree too. It has that. It has to, right? Well, I think when you use the Chaos Flame, you burn everything away that is in the lanes between, like above the surface. And I think all that's left is this shadowy unconscious, which is why Melina is so against it. I think you literally burn everything away that is above the surface in the ego consciousness, and all that is left is like this chaotic shadow realm, which again seems to be dominated by the Glowmite Queen, which is why she makes herself known at that time. Which is again why I feel like she is in that tree, just as Marika was in the Erdtree. But like we talked about a little bit ago, like it doesn't seem. I don't think you're not gonna burn this tree. Like Miquella's here to heal it. Like that's kind of the final cutscene. So I don't think like Chaos Flame seems to come from this place. So like it doesn't really make sense that it would burn that tree. Like it's trying to take down everything else, basically. Everything that's ordered and conscious. Cried tears of blood. Mike, I like that connection. Vlad the Impaler famously cried tears of blood, was son of Dragon and Dracula. What are the odds of Miquella being the true final boss? I don't know. Like, it's hard to put anything past like Miyazaki. Like, who the hell knows? To me, that doesn't really make sense. Like, I could see the final boss being the Glowmite Queen. Like, I think that once you get past Mesmir, just like once you get past Godfrey, like you enter into the tree, and that's like the true god of that world. The true fight kind of happens there. Um, I just see Mikola as helping us do that, but I could absolutely see Miyazaki flipping the script and being like, Mikola's there to gain control over this place, and maybe we end up having to kind of take him down. Who knows? Okay, I gotta kind of power through this, but okay. So this is the fight that I'm talking about. As far as I believe this. Okay, this amalgamation of this boss to be the first set of siblings. And just hear me out. So there's in the first set of siblings we have Moog, Morgott, and Godwyn. Moog and Morgott, obviously Omen twins, who are relegated to like the sewers, right? And then you have kind of this golden child of Godwyn, who is very much like the head of the Golden Scion, or is the Golden Scion, and kind of like he's like the pinnacle of the capital of the Erdtree, of America's like consciousness of like all this stuff. And he's also associated with the sun. He has golden hair, like braided like this, and like a golden lion is very much associated with is like the symbol of the ego. And we see here like somebody is like lifting this head, right, of this golden lion, and then over here we see what seems to be a symbol of the sun. So let's just, I'm gonna play this slow. I'll mute this and then okay. So we see like this super decrepit hand come up and lift up this head of this beast. And then that's, to me, very much an Omen foot. Like when we see Morgott, of our first fight with him, he kind of jumps and falls. We see his foot. It looks identical to that. And then there's also like, obviously we have Omen thorns and the legs back here, and then like there's two sets of legs, two sets of hands holding this golden lion's head in place. And again, it very much has like the same braids and hair as here. Let's just Godwyn, golden. Like it looks, like his hair, like everything just kind of like matches up with this. Like, I don't know. I could be going crazy, but I very, very, very much get like that vibe from this beast. I just hey Galad, I just used my my computer one. And because this is a mirror realm, right? Like, although we definitely will see new enemies and bosses, I think it's equally as plausible to think that we're gonna see like a very strange version of, just as we see a very strange version of the Erdtree, we're gonna see a strange version of some of these other demigods, other children, other bosses. That's yeah, and then especially once he um Godfrey, I can't read what that is. Are you saying Godfrey doesn't have braids though? Let's see. Can't really like. I don't know. To me, that looks like a braid. It's possible that he doesn't, but I don't know that we have like enough, like a clear picture of him to say for sure that he does or doesn't. Um, Damn near everything has a braid in this. Like it could be um, Godric as well. Like it could be like a different version of him that is being kind of grafted. Um, that would make sense to me as well. Like if it's just a different version of Godric. But to me, I think the element of Godwyn, especially with the lightning, and then what looks like a combination of a golden lion and omens, like and two sets of or a set of omens and a golden lion head, like the theme of the game seems to support very much that kind of like thought process. Stormvale and Fortified Manor, pre-Golden Order culture. Oh, that's possible, yeah. No, we haven't yet. We haven't gone over him yet. All right. It's weird too because he's got like, well, first of all, this looks like this right here is Vicar Amelia. Like, like they just took it straight out of Bloodborne. When I first saw that, I was like, holy shit. Um, and like, this could just be like an example of what the Crucible was like, where it was like this amalgam of everything blended together. Like it could definitely just be depicting that, right? But like, I never noticed that. That's weird. Like they're standing on top of each other. It's like here's one person, right? The legs there, and then there's another person like it again. If you look at the story being told, and you have a set of three kids, two of which are relegated to the sewers, and the third is literally perched up top as the golden child. Like if you were gonna make an enemy, like a boss that depicts that, um, like two omens standing on top of each other, perching up a golden lion head, like would very much be kind of like that symbol. Um, and the other ones are kind of like shrouded and like covered up and hidden away. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then yeah, I mean this has to be. I wonder where that. It looks like it's coming from the mouth of the lion. Okay, here we go. Okay, so bracelets. Um, Not that it is definitely like a tell of something, uh, but I would like to believe that the developers showing this as the opening scene put a ton of hidden stuff in this right here, right? Like, so bracelets to me, I think would be an important element of this character. And we know that Godwin, has bracelets. Are they the same? Uh, don't know. And then also the couple, um, that couple also has, right here, like she also has bracelets on. Whoops. Right. And they seem like a little bit longer. Like Godwin seemed very short. Like they don't go up his forearm as much. These seem to go up her forearm a lot more, which fits kind of like what we see here with his bracelets. And the fact that during this cutscene he says mother, like I think that again, with her hand on her belly, she's more than likely pregnant. The bracelets connecting these two figures together. I don't know. That's just the vibe that I get from this character. And then like this is very, very akin to what happens after we kill Malekith, and kind of the way that the death is presented to us, and then the way that death burns everything. I know a lot of people have kind of jumped to a conclusion that it's like the Formless Mother, or it's Blood Flame or something like that, but this whole entire area is about death and Mesmir's flame, that once people visit this place or are relegated to this place, it's his flame that kills them. So to me it makes a lot more sense that this is like the rune of death and the flames associated with that, which like burns the Erdtree. To me that's the same thing being here, or being shown here. Like from the shadow comes these flames. And then we talked about it at the very beginning of the stream, but to me, this figure represents the entire culmination of everything cast to this realm. Like the way that I see it is that he has red hair because of the giants and the hatred of the giants. He has snakes and dragons are associated with like the crucible and kind of the defeat of the crucible, and then flame and death. Like he seems to just be the pinnacle, just like Godwin is the pinnacle of everything loved and admired by America. This seems to be the pinnacle of everything hated and despised by America. And that's like where I again, like I don't think his red hair necessarily means that he is the literal son of America and Radagon, because in my theory Radagon comes from this place. Like he comes from the unconscious. That's where the animus like dwells, and that's why he has red hair. And even though he hates his red hair, like there's nothing he can do about it, because he comes from, like, it's an aspect of this place that is kind of like pinned to him. It's like it's like a red herring of like where he's from, and we'll see it later in this video. But there's even a bear with red hair. So if we randomly throw everything that has red hair is the son of Radagon, I think it's a very slippery slope, because I think red hair, especially in this domain, is going to be very, very popular and it's gonna be like, oh, okay, wait, is that bear Radagon? Is like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's important to get the whole picture rather than just like focus on one element of him. And that's kind of where my brain operates within this figure. And he has very serpentine eyes. And now I don't want to just throw out the possibility that he is Radagon's child, because, dude, anything is possible. Like, the way this game is told, and the different, like, Marika's Radagon, and the everything that is happening, like, it's very much possible. I just think it's again, it's a little bit like too on the nose for a world built by Miyazaki. The last couple things is, I think we're just seeing kind of a display of some new places that we'll visit, some new techniques that we'll use, things like that. Now, who this character is, I don't know. I mean, it looks very similar to Rodrika, but we know Hugh says that he met somebody with the same hue in their eyes. This could be that person. The butterflies kind of connected to the sisters. Could be Saint Trina. Like, I don't know. And then again, in the background here, we see a statue of a lion with like crucible horns coming out of it. Again, just kind of telling us where we are, the reason that everything came from here, including Marika. This is ground zero. Like, this is the crucible. This is where everything was blended together. And now the only thing that occupies this space is this shadowy, unknown, chaotic, suppressed aspects of society. I gotta believe that that's Saint Trina, but get some fucking Tekken kicks going there. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing through this last bit because I have to go in 10 minutes. I will maybe hop on again later if that interests you guys and talk more about it. But this character is sweet. It looks like the Crepus bow. Very much like Dark Souls-esque armor. Kind of a mixture between Havel and who was that guy that wore the black armor by the painting? And this is that bear again. Like, it's got elements of red to it. It's got a crucible horn. Again, I think it's just telling the story of where we're at, more than anything else. And I think that applies to the children too. Like, if you look at the first set of kids with Godfrey and Marika, there's one golden child, two omens. And then if you look at the children with with Radagon and Renala, they all have red hair. And they all are like elements of this shadowy realm, right? Like, especially if you take Renala to be the queen of the moon, and this is kind of the moon's domain, and elements of red seem to be important here. It makes sense that they have elements of the crucible of this place as part of them. That's my take on it anyways. we get transported here to Sekiro real quick. Sekiro land. um, again, I think this is a lot of this is just a visual display of like what to expect. This thing is freaking awesome. Moon in the background. It's in water. Turns into a porcupine. And then, I don't know about you guys, but I get Orphan of Kos like vibes hardcore right there. Again, in a cave, in water, and like it's an extremely bizarre creature. But the fact that it's riding a horse and like wielding this kind of like gravity-esque weapon, again, like if I'm going to assume that the golden lion thing is a shadowy aspect of the first set of children, like this could be the shadowy version of Radon. Like that to me doesn't seem that far out of the realm of possibilities. God, this is such a gnarly. I almost think that this is the rune that is cast on the moon. It looks very similar, and the fact that he's like pulling it out of his head, again, I think is just a narrative device. Like this rune is coming from this poor man's kind of psyche. And it's very dark and twisted and messed up. But this is the same person as from that picture. Again, red. We're even wearing red in that cutscene. Mesmir's wearing red. The Omen twin golden lion statue thing is wearing red. It's just a very pervasive color that is depicted in this realm. And then the lanky body, like we've talked about this before, but that I think that's just kind of a thing that Miyazaki does. Bloodborne was all about it. The statues that we see all around the lands between, they kind of depict that like very lanky type of person. Mikola in his cocoon is like that. It just seems to be a style used by Miyazaki. And then I would love to be able to see what that symbol that he's standing on in the middle of the room is. It's probably incredibly important. But this area, this kind of boss room, very much gives me Malekith vibes. Like it's just kind of an arena, a circle arena surrounded by columns. Not much else to it. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing through this. This took way longer than I thought I'd be on here for like max 2 hours. You still can't really see that, can you? Crucible wings, which are just super cool. Now you can't tell what that is. It's probably some sort of Celtic symbol. And then probably the most important like thing that we're going to see is, so we have Mikola here, who seems to be like just this like very angelic figure who is just like almost like pure light. And you can see like from him is radiating this kind of golden hue, which is probably unalloyed gold, and is like slowly going to take over the Shadow Realm, and the Erdtree and everything that goes with it, and heal everything within this place. Almost like what is it, Moana? Like where you like you put the heart back, and then from there, like there's this cascade of like normalcy, and then you can see at the top like the Erdtree starting to heal. There's elements of light and hope and life and all that kind of stuff associated with it. But yeah, again, the fact that they're using him as like the what they're hanging their hat on, to me means that there's something else behind him that we have yet to see. Something that he is safeguarding, just like Godfrey is the box art and not really the actual like quote unquote god or subject of the game. I think that's the same thing happening here with Mesmer. Okay, I'm sorry guys, but I have got to go. That the voice at the end requests Wither Arm, yeah. Gots to go, y'all. If you're up for spending another 4 hours on the other half of the trailer, yeah, I should. I really rushed that, so I will do that. I'll put another live stream up and talk more about kind of deep dive into that. But anyways, y'all, I really appreciate everybody for hopping on. If you wouldn't mind giving this a like and just sharing this with people and writing in the comments